I have a question that I hear from a lot of people of color, and I resonate with to a certain extent. Getting to near the end of what you said there, which is on around the idea of formers. Like there are a lot of people, especially a lot of people in the Black community, who would say like, look, there's no former like whatever, regardless of how you grew up or what like put you into that kind of thing. Like you're always going to have some of those um, you're always going to have some of those prejudices. You're always going to have some little bit of bad programming that's up there. Maybe they stop getting in cars and running over people in the streets, but it's not really stopping hatred. And there's a lot of effort that is spent online of people who are trying to reach out to um, others who they say are beyond the pale, way too racist. There's even some videos of like a black guy, a black man talking to other white people who used to be racist or consider themselves to be in these racist organizations and kind of having conversations with them, becoming their friend and converting them. Like these stories get tons of clicks online and social media, but a lot of people of color, myself included, I roll because that's not how it works most of the time. You can't just do that. And even then, that's a lot of emotional energy to try to prove and justify your existence and being to another person who has been trained with an equal amount of energy to not believe in that. So is there, what to you, not to put you on the hot seat or anything, but like what to you is the strength of choosing to get people to turn into formers? What's the strength of getting people to quit fascist movements and almost become voices, mouthpieces for leaving that movement and for what progressives like really care about?
Yeah. So there's a lot of complicated views that people have about formers. I know a number of them, and I've worked with them, and I try to promote their work. So first thing I would tell people, I know a lot of people are not comfortable with it. They'll never forgive them, and I tell these farmers because they're struggling too to move on with their lives, and they have conflicts with people. I've had to intervene sometimes in these conflicts and be like, leave this person alone. And I'm like, some people, I tell them, I'm like, some people will never forgive you. I would say the first thing I would say, and I'm going to say formers, they don't just, Nazis don't just threaten people of color. They do threaten people of color, of course. They threaten Jews. They threaten feminists. They threaten LGBTQ people. They threaten leftists. Lots of different people are the targets or former targets of former fascists, too. So it's just a broader question. You don't have to. I would say first thing, forgiveness is a political act. This isn't. I know who this guy you're talking about is, who makes friends with them, and I don't think that's the preferred strategy. We usually wait till they reach out. There's organizations they can reach out to. There are certain people who do try to engage with them and facilitate this work. A lot of it is once they've reached out, then you start working with them. And a lot of the people who do this work are formers themselves. And, I really appreciate that because they could have just moved on with their life, that they're sticking around to sort of help other people over the bridge. So again, I think forgiveness is political. This isn't an ethical thing, asking, you to let go of your anger. It's just like it is the best thing we can do. Our best outcome is have people leave their movement. Like just for us, from our own political viewpoint, that's the best outcome we can have. And we really, just from a tactical perspective, want to promote that. Also, you don't have to do it. You don't have to forgive them. You don't have to do this work with them. Other people are doing this work. The best people to do this work are formers themselves. If you don't feel comfortable with it, just please don't get in the way. You don't have to interact with these people. But do let them go on their way. There's a real problem with recidivism. If people are too won't accept them leaving this movement, they'll go back into it, and that's the last thing that we want. This is really a big problem, and this is one reason that the formers need help leaving. Sometimes they get so deeply involved in it. Their job is tied into it. Their relationships are tied into it. Their friends are tied into it. This is what they do with their life. And it takes a while to move out of that. So there's real practical reasons that we stress this. And again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, you don't have to do it. It's not like something that requires really masses of people to do. but it is a really important political thing, and you can isolate people socially even if you've doxed people, gotten them fired from their job. Well, now they're sitting in their house and stewing. They have more time to possibly have more time to do activism. The best outcome is to get people to no longer be Nazis. And we don't necessarily want them to be on our side. We don't need them to sing Kumbaya. We don't need them to love, people that they formerly hated. We just need to politically neutralize them. You know what I mean? Like, they can go become stamp collectors. They can become everyday Republicans. Like, I don't care what they become. They just need to stop being Nazis.
Yeah,
and white groups, there's actually been a problem where some people are claiming they're not white nationalists, but they're becoming, really serious Trumpists, and we can't accept that. But if they want to become a more run-of-the-mill conservative who sits at home and votes Republican, that's their choice.
Yeah, I like to remind people that politics is fought on a number of different fronts. And so if there is a front that is working on the margins somewhere, like, again, this goes back to this whole leftists and strategy thing, like, break it down, think about it for a second. If we can convince these formers to do the emotional and labor or whatever of talking to other people and getting them out of the movement that way, meanwhile, we're working on a political angle to vote the fascists out of power to the extent we can. We're also working on the streets to make sure that they have less of a presence, working through the courts and the criminal justice system to make sure the fascists within those systems don't win. Like, we fight on all fronts. That's the whole point of, like, having any sort of coalition and, like, winning a damn thing, which it seems like liberals and the left have forgotten to do. So I guess it's worth reminding them. So, like, I ultimately come down your side of, like, look, not everyone is going to love every single position or tactic, but there are ones that work for a reason. And as long as we're still, like, reading up on it and, like, doing our due diligence on it and making sure that tactic isn't being used for outside harm acts or doesn't have any, like, negative outside ramifications, we should leave it be and see what use it has to the overall big picture. Converting racists and having nicest conversations with them is not going to solve racism. It's not going to fix everything, but it might, like you said, make it so there's 5, 10, a couple hundred, several hundred fewer white nationalists and fascists that they have to kind of call on when it's necessary. Fewer going to these random cities and protests to stir up trouble. Fewer on social media. And then, again, you start to break some of these social cohesion that these folks have. Because once that's gone, they're already kind of ostracized in society. You just need to rip away that social cohesion. So I hear a lot of where you're coming from on that. But
there's all kinds of things in the guide that everybody is not going to like. I mean, there's things about there using the court system. A lot of radicals don't like that. There's things about if you might want to arm yourself with firearms. A lot of people have objected to that. Like, you don't have to love everything that's in here. These are just what the options are. These are the workable options. No, you certainly don't need to accept or utilize all of them.
I think that's an excellent clarification and distinction. Like, you want some ways to fight fascists. The Washington Post and the New York Times are not going to give you ways to fight fascists. Spencer, we came up with 40 of them. So, like, pick them. That's kind of what we're going with here. And I do happen to think that a lot of these are good, tangible plans. Not that I have to prove it to you, because you wrote the fucker.